Chapter 3. The Spy. Rico followed Rosa through the maze of crumbling streets, his mind swirling with everything that had happened. Behind him, Vega kept pace, silent but alert. The city groaned and buzzed with the sound of the infestation creeping through its hollowed-out ruins. But for the first time, Rico felt more in control. The connection to the swarm was still strange, alien, but he could manage it. His sister had given him hope, a sense of direction. "We're almost there," Rosa muttered, leading them through a narrow alley hidden between two half-collapsed buildings. They emerged into a larger courtyard, shielded from sight by the wreckage of fallen skyscrapers. Inside, dozens of people moved quickly, setting up barricades, prepping weapons, and tending to the wounded. "This is the resistance," Rosa said, nodding to a group of soldiers who approached. "They've been fighting the government's control ever since the infestation broke out." A tall man in dusty tactical gear stepped forward, his face marked with dirt and exhaustion. "Rosa," he greeted her, then turned to Rico and Vega. "So these are the new recruits?" "They're more than that," Rosa said firmly. "Rico has the same ability as me. We can control the swarm." The man raised an eyebrow but didn't seem fazed. "Good. We'll need every advantage we can get." As they moved deeper into the camp, Vega's gaze wandered. She had never seen so many people in one place since the outbreak began. Her eyes landed on a young man, slightly older than her, with a quiet intensity about him. He was sitting on a crate, cleaning his rifle with methodical precision. He had a sharp jawline, dark eyes, and an air of calm amidst the chaos. "Who's that?" Vega whispered to Rosa, nodding toward him. Rosa glanced over. "That's Leon, one of our best scouts. Smart, resourceful. He's been with us for months now." Vega couldn't take her eyes off him. Something about him seemed different, like he didn't quite belong, but in a way that drew her in. Before she could ask more, Leon looked up, locking eyes with her for a brief second before returning to his task. Vega felt her heart skip a beat. "Focus, Vega," Rico muttered, though he couldn't help but smirk. "We've got bigger problems." As they settled into the camp, Rosa gathered the resistance leaders to plan their next move. They had intel that the government was preparing a large-scale assault on the city, hoping to wipe out both the swarm and any remaining survivors. The resistance had to act fast if they were going to stop it. Later that night, Vega found herself standing watch near the camp perimeter. She spotted Leon patrolling nearby and decided to approach him. "You're Vega, right?" Leon asked before she could speak. His voice was low, steady. "Yeah," she replied, caught off guard that he knew her name. "And you're Leon. I heard you're one of the best scouts here." Leon chuckled softly. "I do what I can. It's not easy keeping people alive out here." They fell into an easy conversation, Vega finding herself more drawn to him with each word. He was smart, insightful, but there was something beneath the surface, a sadness, maybe a secret, that she couldn't quite put her finger on. "Why do you stay?" Vega asked quietly after a while. "It seems like everyone else is just running or hiding." Leon paused, his gaze distant. "I believe in what we're fighting for. We can't let the government win. They created this mess, and they'll destroy everything if we don't stop them." Vega nodded, feeling a strange connection forming between them. She didn't realize how much she'd missed talking to someone like this, someone who understood the weight of the world they were living in. But even as her feelings for Leon grew, doubts crept into the back of her mind. Something wasn't right, and she couldn't shake the feeling that Leon was hiding something. The next morning, alarms rang out through the camp. Government forces were on the move, and a massive battle was looming. Rico, Rosa, and Vega geared up alongside the resistance fighters, ready for the coming fight. As the battle began, Rico and Rosa took control of the swarm, sending waves of insects to disrupt the enemy's lines. The government forces, armed with high-tech weaponry, were relentless, but with Rico and Rosa's power over the bugs, the resistance fought back fiercely. In the midst of the chaos, Vega saw Leon slipping away from the main group, heading toward the government's lines. Her heart sank. She followed him, staying hidden as he made his way through the wreckage. She caught up with him in a deserted alley, where he was speaking into a hidden earpiece. "I've given you their position," Leon was saying quietly. "They're focusing on the swarm, but if you hit them from the west..." Vega stepped out of the shadows, gun raised. "Leon!" He turned, his expression hardening. "Vega, it's not what you think." "Not what I think," she spat, her voice trembling with anger and betrayal. "You're a spy for the government." Leon held up his hands. "I'm trying to stop this. I'm doing what I have to do to survive." "You're betraying all of us," Vega snapped, her finger twitching on the trigger. Before she could act, a blast shook the ground. The government forces had launched their assault. Vega turned, torn between confronting Leon and helping her friends. In that moment of hesitation, Leon vanished into the chaos. Back at the battlefront, the resistance was taking heavy losses. Rico and Rosa, exhausted from controlling the swarm, were beginning to falter. But Vega's anger fueled her. She joined the fight with renewed determination, rallying the survivors and pushing back the enemy. With Rico and Rosa's control over the bugs, they managed to break through the government's lines, forcing them into a retreat. The day was won, but at a heavy cost. Dozens of resistance fighters had been lost, and the camp was no longer safe. "We have to move," Rosa said grimly as they regrouped. "The government will come back with more forces." Rico nodded. "We'll relocate, start over somewhere else." As they gathered the survivors, Vega couldn't help but think of Leon. Despite everything, she couldn't shake the feelings she had for him, or the sense that he wasn't entirely lost to the government's cause. But for now, there was no time to dwell on it. The resistance had survived another day, but the war was far from over. And as they disappeared into the shadows of the ruined city, Vega couldn't help but wonder if she'd see Leon again, on the battlefield, or somewhere else entirely.